The Flyin Lion says,
Boys, hell is real.
2023 Supporter Shield champs.
Just give me a reason to drink some Guinness in the morning.
Yeah, just a fan of the sport, you know.
I appreciate the opportunity.
It's definitely tougher to be an academy player than it is a pro.
Soccer's my favorite sport now.
The jersey swap was
my car of the week, trivia question of the week. We are back, everyone, for another episode of the Flyin Lion podcast. Here tonight on kind of a somber occasion with FC Cincinnati getting knocked out of the first round of the playoffs. We'll touch a little bit on this game, the ramifications of this, and then give you a little bit of our season impressions and what we saw, what went right, what went wrong, what things could we have improved upon. So our deep dive on that, who our players of the year were as well. And then in the second part of the episode, we'll kind of do a switch. We're going to talk a little bit briefly about some players getting called up to the national teams, and then some offseason decisions that we're going to be hearing here in the next couple of weeks, and the whole Lucho debacle. I know everyone wants to hear it. There's a lot of opinions going around about it. Obviously, we have no idea, but we'll give you our 2 cents on it and what we think. And then, Sam, there is a huge striker rumor that we get literally the day after the season ends, trying to pull us back in, really trying to get us back on the horse. Sam, on that note, are you feeling back into it?
Yeah, I know. Obviously, it's been a tough week, not only for FC Cincinnati fans, but Cincinnati fans in general, right? Bengals lose on Thursday. Got the Bearcats that lose, a couple hours before FC Cincinnati as well. Just not a good feeling in Cincinnati, but like Ryan said, they pull us back in. Once we feel down and out, he pulls us right back in, and it wasn't even one of our own guys. It was, an MLS guy and Tom Bogert. So we'll get to that later. But, I had my stage of depression, as we all did, right? Leaving the game, kind of just head hung high. Obviously, the season isn't where obviously we would have liked to seen it go. Now, some would say we overachieved with what we had, right? Just like we talked about with Carter, right? Like the inconsistencies and everything else like that. But once again, we're relevant and made the playoffs, and we're going to keep pushing. So hopefully we can talk a little bit about that here.
Yeah, they always find a way to pull us back in. It's just being, a fan of this team, and with the quality ownership that you have. And like Carter had mentioned in the last episode, if you haven't listened, go listen to that interview. It was a great one. But just the fact that, hey, you have the GM that we have and the coach that we have. So that whoever is going to come in, like, they're going to try their best to do well, but they're going to try to, bring those talents to Cincinnati and to create the best team that we can, on the field. And everything else, outside of that, you can't necessarily control, but how do you react to it? So let's get into this playoff game 3 against NYCFC. We were at home again. Kind of an odd thing having now the Saturday afternoon game. We were the first one of the 3 games, I believe, that the MLS had that day. So everyone's kind of sole focus was looking at us. There's a lot of talk out there, about upsets in the playoffs. And I think this is what people had circled, as the top one based on our form. And I was really hoping that we would just come out and just dominate and, score some goals right away to put that out of hand. And, ultimately they don't do that. So we'll talk about it, like I said, more briefly than anything. But Sam, one nice touch that we did have rally towels for the game. We called for it earlier on after the first home game of the playoffs.
Yeah, I know. We had talked about it, and as we're walking in, we're like, oh, look at the boxes. We got rally towels. And so immediately we started talking about, like, well, if we got rally towels for this home game, like, what would we have gotten, if we would have gone on to play Red Bulls? Would we have gotten that? Or, did they have this left over? Did they plan it? Whatever. But we were very happy to have the towels. The towels look phenomenal, kind of like the flags all around the stadium, especially, right before kickoff. That was electric. But yeah, I think the only thing as far as atmosphere wise, light show could have been, a little, maybe not have it if it's going to be a 4:00, start time, but we'll take the light show, I guess. Right.
The second half was better. I have to say after half, like it was a little darker, so you got to see more of that. But it's just creating a hostile environment. We had
Yeah.
honestly a really, really decent crowd. Bailey was packed, everyone was waving those towels around, like trying to get behind the team. I walked out and was thinking about like what our home record was this season and how I feel like next year we have to get back to creating it as a fortress. And this is a place we cannot lose, especially in the playoffs and in this setting. So I think that's why there's added emotion to the reaction of things, and maybe for some certain players that we will touch into, why that even adds into it more. Lineup wise, though, we go with the fourth straight lineup, same lineup that we had seen from Philly all the way through these three games. The one thing that didn't change was the striker play. We were wondering after game two, well, coming back home, wider field, are we going to connect with those guys more? Are we going to finish our chances? And that was the story of this game. That was really the story of the whole season. And we saw it even in the CONCACAF Champions Cup too. How many opportunities against Monterrey and all of those other teams that in the end up killing us.
Yeah, I mean, once again during this game, finishing off those chances just were not there, right? Having the lack of a number nine up there, a true number nine, just did not do it, right? I know, unfortunately, we all love Kubo. He just didn't have his best game up top, and I think you could kind of see the frustration from him as well after every chance he had. He's almost like I should have scored there. I should have. And I mean, that was kind of how it was for almost everybody up front, was just frustration.
Let's give the back line their flowers, though. I mean, they had a overall solid performance. I mean, you keep them goalless technically. You go to PKs and lose, but the defense put the clamps on. I would
I
say
would, yeah, I would arguably say this was one of
one of
Miles Robinson's like best
exactly
games
what
with
I was
FC
going to say.
Cincinnati.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, he stepped up in a big way. And, if you look back on it now in the timing, we lose Saturday. Sunday, it's announced that Miles joins the U.S. men's national team. Was there any thought to, is Pochettino watching this game, seeing what is my current form?
I don't know. He was in
And
Orlando at the time, so I
yeah,
don't,
but he
I
can
don't know.
watch still. He
No,
can
yeah,
go
I'm
back
just,
and look at that and say, hey, how's he doing? Or maybe they had a scout there. Maybe there was other
yeah.
people that were, watching this game.
I mean, there
Um,
were other people at the game.
there were. We'll get into that. But yeah, no, I felt like for all the defensive woes that we had throughout the second part of the season, this is one of the games you just can't say. And honestly, throughout the three games, maybe the second game not as much, but overall, like pretty solid. I think we found something there in the back three. Um, Situations like occur, in these games when you play three games against the same team, this close together. Like you have to outduel the other coach. You have to get the best out of your players. You have to understand, are my guys tired? Am I going to get the most out of you, Yakubo, tonight? And obviously they had those discussions going in. This is who they felt like had the best opportunity. We get an unbelievable chance right before half, Sam, that I wanted to just touch on. Luca Orshano, gets the goal of the year in the MLS for the regular season, but almost creates probably going to be, if he puts it in, the goal of the season, regardless of any competition. He takes on the guy from half field, three different guys actually. Megs a guy, cuts it on his left foot, shoots it. I thought it deflected. I guess it does not. And then they call halftime, but just unbelievable solo effort from him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw that throughout the game, right? He had a couple chances to where he was taking guys one on one. I think, like he usually does, he'll cut back on a few of those chances to be able to, play it across the keeper. Unfortunately, just wasn't able to see anything fall. I know that crucial, free kick chance that, we're going to touch on here. Ryan, I know there was speculation. People were saying it was cramps, but he was gearing up. He was ready to take that free kick. He was talking to Lucho, and then he gets subbed out.
Yeah, and that's the thing for me. Like you see him go and stretch, and the first thing that comes to my mind is Pat looks at the Barrial situation from last year against the Crew. The dude stretching, off to the side as they go and score on us. That's the last thing that he wanted, is one of our players to potentially get hurt because of it, and then he's out for another game. But it just didn't seem like there was a cohesion with that. I mean, he comes off to the side and was like, "Look, man, I've been the most dangerous player on your team, and you take me out." There's at that time, 8 to 10 minutes left in the game. You can't tell me that the guy couldn't just stand there and kick one shot, for a PK. So that's the thing that upsets me. Obviously, we're not in that situation. We don't know what's going on with that. But I mean, I would assume to me like that him coming off is a signal of like wave the white flag, let's go to PKs is kind of how I read it. If you take it out of the injury situation, um, and at least looking at it live, I mean, did you feel that way too?
Yeah, I mean, especially the additions that he made, right? I mean, I get bringing on Dotto for Obi, try and make it a little bit more attacking there in the middle. However, Dotto was on the ball, was not. He was a little careless with the ball. I know, obviously, he hasn't played in a month, right? So not sure what's going on there. And then you've got the Powell sub, right? So I know in the back, we knew in the back it was fine during open play. We'd be fine. Didn't feel like we were really going to concede a goal. Um, but it was more of we see Kelsey come on late, uh, too late, right?
Hmm.
To where we thought, he possibly could have had come on, 50th minute, right? So
Right.
that way he could have a decent amount of time to actually put some, stuff on goal and to be able to integrate and work with Lucho and Orshano up top. But yeah, I think looking back at the subs, obviously we're not there. We trust Pat 100%. It's only the feeling from the stands we get that we can kind of touch on.
True. Yeah. Yeah. And in the moment, you're obviously upset about it. But you touched on the Dado thing, and if a guy hasn't played in a month and you ask him to come in and contribute in that, like it's almost not fair. Like you look at your midfield depth and like who else did they really rotate in the midfield? Maybe they didn't have to, but to put him in that scenario is almost like asking him to do something miraculous. And then to come in and take a PK, he's young, Kelsey's young, like that's no excuse, but like you have to put your best foot forward. And you couldn't tell me like some of the other guys would have been better suited possibly to take that. But again, we're not in practice. We're not seeing what those PK practice looks like. Maybe this was the plan overall. But it just seemed kind of like reactionary than, proactive is the way I would describe it. Okay, 70th minute, 75th minute, 80th minute. All right, we're looking at the clock. Like, what are we going to do? What are we going to create? And then you get a subtraction of one of your better players. And it's like, well, this doesn't seem like going for it. So it's obviously reactionary. And looking back on it now, there's a lot of things you would change. But PK's felt like a death sentence. Let's be honest. The way that we had seen for all the crap that we had give, Roman in previous pods too for his PKs, like dude balled out, in goal. The first couple didn't look great, but he rebounded. And in big moments, he makes a couple saves. He forces one where the guy kicks it over. I mean, he gave the team a chance to continue. And you just don't see, that ball go in the net. And maybe that's props to Freeze for saving them, but some of them just were not good PKs.
Very telegraphed. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know, like you said, it was a death sentence. Coming into this game, literally every FC Cincinnati fan had the same mindset, and that was let's not go to PKs because that you know, puts us at a disadvantage playing at home. We can't even get a goal in open play, and now we have to settle this in PKs where anything can happen, and we don't have an advantage anymore of being the top seed, right?
Which
So,
props to like NYCFC because that was their game plan. Look at all the time
yeah,
they wasted
I
and
mean, time wasting and everything,
throughout the
yeah.
whole
But
game. It's like,
I,
okay, it's
I,
clear what your objective is here. So
I will
don't leave it
say,
up to
yeah,
that chance. Don't leave it up to the 50-50, hey, it could go in or not, and instead go and take it. And obviously they tried, but that was the
with
story of the year.
with Roman though, I think Ryan, this is going to be a huge confidence booster for him in his
True.
career. Being able to save those two penalties, like you said, have the one go over, but obviously it would have been a much bigger confidence booster had it led to a victory. But still, I think there's no reason he should hang his head about, the game that he played. He did pretty much as the best he could,
Yeah.
right? And he got more comfortable, and hopefully that's what that leads to, right? Is more confidence. He can get more comfortable in saving PKs, and we don't have to worry about kind of like, oh, at least if we go to PKs once, Roman will save at least one, right?
Right.
now we have the confidence in him. We've seen it before. He
Well, the
stepped up in big
interesting thing
moments.
from this year is there's only one other PK shootout.
Yeah.
Last year there was three or four, and I think Alec Can was in at least three of them. Roman makes, some of the key saves against Red Bulls to win it and have us move on from the first round last year. So he has some playoff magic in him. It's just maybe the consistency of it or, seeing some of those PKs more often. I hate that I would say like I want to see a PK against him, but the reps always probably help. In the end, like he did his job. You're right. Now other players have to take that momentum and score on it. And ultimately, we didn't do it. That was the end of the season. It was heartbreaking to do, 2 years in a row at home that you go out, which is just brutal. But if you look at the overall season impression, Sam, great season, for what we had. If you look at the beginning half of the season versus the end, like it tells two different stories. But as a whole, you still get 23 wins. You get 16 losses and 6 ties, which those last two numbers were flipped pretty much from the year before. So way more ties and way less losses. And I'd like to see that trend happen where you fight back and at least get a point out of it. That's what made us a Shield winner that year. And even though, if we look at the road records and stuff, like we killed it on the road. But we've created a standard of winning and we're always pushing for more now. It seems it's just, can we take that next hump? I hate to say what a lot of people were saying online is, are we the Philadelphia Union, 2.0 in the mirrored, hey, it's a great team. They do well during the season. They just can't win, anything. And at least we got a Shield last year, but let's push it. Let's push those boundaries. The difference is the ownership is not content. They are constantly trying to improve it. Like, we'll get to it in a little bit, but we saw Albright before the game on his phone, like making moves right before the game was even going on. So that they're pushing. If you look at the squad, Sam, tell me what your thoughts are on some of what we saw.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, a regular season, like you said, or we're becoming a regular in the postseason. In the talks for trophies now every year, right? We don't have to worry about, oh, well, maybe we'll make the playoffs. No, like we're in, right? So now that's three years in a row, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the playoffs,
Yep.
right? Two deep runs or two runs.
Two
I guess
runs.
you're gonna say 2 runs. But I think overall, you're looking at a squad that never really settled in, right? Two big keys was obviously the forward position and then injuries, right? We just weren't able to come together as a cohesive unit. Over the season, we had rotating forwards like Bupenza, Baird, Kelsey, Santos, Kubo, Nico, Orishano at times, Dotto at times would play,
Lucho,
the
I want to
nine.
argue as
Lucho
up
would
there.
play at the 9, right? So that's a lot of different guys that we've had rotate through, and none of them, maybe you could make a case for Kubo, found consistency up top, right? And then injuries, you're looking at Miazga out for the season, Hagelin out for the season, Isaiah Foster out for the season. Obi was dealing with some groin stuff at the beginning of the year. Alec Can with some hip stuff. So now depth is gone, and then of course of Costa with both of his feet. Which this stat, Ryan, I saw this and I was like, oh, I had no idea because I didn't really couldn't make it like a clear date on when he started to deal with his feet stuff, but I guess in 24 games before the injury, he had 11 goals and 18 assists. In 8 games after the injury, 3 goals, 1 assist. So hopefully, off season comes, he can have surgery. He can really just do what he needs to do for his feet, get right, and we'll get a healthy Acosta for next year.
No, great point. I'm going up to quickly look at in 24 games, I'm pretty sure he almost had as many goal contributions as he did in his MVP year.
Yeah.
17 goals and 14. Oh, sorry. Was it
11 and
was that
18.
was that correct from the year before?
What's that?
I was trying to see how many his MVP year
Yeah, it was
was.
17 and 14.
Was it really? Okay.
Yeah.
So, if you look at that in 24 games, I mean, in the middle of the summer, you're saying, out and out MVP, Pat's up
Mhm.
for, coach of the year again. And then the injury bug like ultimately hit everyone. But for us to still be with where we were, in fighting for the Shield, top three in the East, like we said, like we built that really big high mountain and then just kind of steadily rode it. Um, but how many other teams had to really like face that, And obviously it's sports and stuff happens. And the way that we were able to plug guys in, I think of all the guys you mentioned, like at forward, like Kubo's not an out and out striker, Orishano's not, Dado's not, Lucho's not, putting guys in different spots, left wing back, right wing back. How much does that impact the team? So next year, I'm looking for who are your out and out guys? Where can we count on them consistently in those positions, putting them in the best positions to win? Obviously, the players are playing for their coach and they trust, what he's telling them. But in the back of their mind, they're like, hey, man, I'm a striker. I'm not a left wing back, if you know who I'm talking about. But yeah, I think that that's a talk for another time. But if we look at some of the home run transfers, and I thought it was kind of interesting, Orishano is the one that's obviously going to stand out. But then Yamil Assad coming in, in March like he did on almost nothing, hadn't played soccer for months. And for him to really take that left wing back spot, serviceable, is what I would say. I wouldn't call it a home run personally. I would say like for maybe what that move is, like that's a home run, but a home run to me is like you got Miles Robinson to come play and look at how valuable he was with all the other injuries. That's a stabilizer in the back. And in prior years, like one of our guys goes down and we're totally screwed, so maybe, I would say Miles even more as a home run type transfer. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean we'll call Assad a double or a triple
Yeah.
there. How about that? But yeah, I agree. Um, from the standpoint of home run, like you said, it was solely based off of the expectation that we were going to see from Assad, with him coming in. A lot of FC players, FC fans probably were like, "Who is this guy? We have no idea who he is. He supposedly is just a friend of Lucho's." So we'll see how he does. And he was a midfielder, right? And we, like you said, we kind of said, "Hey, do you want to play left wing back, kind of, left mid, whatever, And so he killed it. For the expectations that he had coming into the squad. We didn't know how many minutes he was going to get. At first, he was getting
Yeah.
like none. He was
Yeah.
getting garbage time minutes. But
Well, and
yeah,
if
I
you
think
look at,
Robinson too.
yeah, no, Robinson, absolutely. And like bringing him from Atlanta like we did, but, Pavel Buka for coming in and putting the minutes that he
Mhm.
did, I felt like a lot of the
And
guys
in a
were
new country as well.
for sure. No, absolutely. And acquainting right away and kind of owning his position, wasn't always in the stats or the headlines, but doing the small things that the team needed to win. So, I'd be remiss if I didn't shout him out for that. Obviously there's some guys that didn't hit as well and in those big positions, that's where we missed it. But to turn over the roster like you did, we hear all the comments that Lucho comes out with and how it hurt him. Like it hurt us, look at the guys that we became attached to during that run. And you see this new team almost come in and you have 5 or 6 different starters every single game and expecting them to step up to that next level. In a lot of ways, a lot of them, raised the bell even, and were able to do it in different ways. So props to, the guys that did come in with that much, change in turnover, a lot of guys going in and out, on loans. So that was also something new. In my experience for FCC, like in the last 2 years, it's more than I've seen in any other MLS team. I think I've said that before. But if we look at, the stats otherwise, 11 first-time goal scorers on the year for the club, second most all time behind the 2019 season, which you're going to get the most goal scorers because you never had an MLS team. But it's pretty impressive, but also speaks to the fact that there wasn't those consistent guys, so we used a lot of different people. Away road win record, 11 wins, tied for best ever with CF Montreal and Inter Miami from this year. So for how bad the home record was, the away record, like they got something right there.
Yeah, I mean, away. I know we had talked about, unfortunately, walking out of that stadium, we just the fans made it a fortress this year. They will always make it a fortress, right? TQL Stadium will forever be one of the toughest places to play in MLS, and in American soccer. But the players, I just don't know what it was about them at home, right? They did not feel, I guess comfortable at home, or whatever it was, but they felt comfortable away, and they felt like every time we were like, hey, away match, let's just get a draw, let's get something, right? We stepped away with a win, and we took it, right. We were like, oh great, we'll take 3 points on the road because that's better than 1 point. So yeah, obviously you like to see a better record at home, but setting, tied for the best ever, in MLS, I think that's pretty good as well.
Yeah, anytime you're setting the records that way, and with how many years that the league's been around, that's impressive. Even more with how many games that we played, and how long the schedule is. It's a grind over these months. But we also had back-to-back goal of the year winners, Sam. I mean, you see Lucho's last year and you go, who's going to trump that? You had a Barrial, Puskas nominee, and then you get Luca Orishano that bangs in two over half field goals.
I mean,
And
will
he
that
gets
get a
his,
nominee?
yeah, I mean, insane. Who's next year is my question. I
I
mean,
mean,
I'm
it
waiting
just
for it.
depends. Just depends on if we bring somebody else in, or if Orishano stays. Maybe Lucho makes a little magic with two healthy feet, right? We'll see.
Hmm.
We'll see.
Yeah, or a new striker, maybe.
Uh-huh.
That would be nice to see too. We did have a couple guys nominated, Luke Orishano for newcomer of the year. In our opinions, Lucho, and everybody knows this around the league. I mean, the dude was an MVP caliber player. I don't care what the media has to say. He was a nomination for MVP. I mean, everyone knows that. So I'm gonna give him that one. We were 14-6 in 1 goal games this year, Sam. Third best all time. So they're really trying to like kill us, give us a heart attack. But pulling those wins out was huge. Ultimately, in the end, in vital situations where we needed to win 1 goal games, we didn't. But the trend over the past few years is, hey, if it's close, like the defense is going to be solid and we're going to find a game winner. So that's kind of a nice trend. I just would love some games like Inter Miami where we just blow them out of the water.
Yeah, I know we'd all
Is that
love,
too much to ask for? Come on.
yeah, yeah, a little bit. It's kind of like, Ryan's like, I want more FIFA, right? Like, give
Yeah.
me you need to be playing FIFA on the actual pitch here. But yeah, I think 14-6 and 1 goal games, like you said, we saw the trend starting last year and into this year, even with kind of dysfunction and rotation in our back line. I think that's what we look to now, which, in earlier seasons, we were looking to that attack to try and get us to win games. And now we're solidified in the back line to go, hey, we're going to at least, get a draw here. And if we don't, then we're going to get a game winner, right? Like you said. So I'm very confident, especially, as we talk about the future of FC Cincinnati in this back line, to be able to keep those 1 goal leads.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That'll be something to look at next year. In the promises there. We'll cover that, here soon. So stay tuned for that. But Sam, I want to hear your jersey swap of the year for FC Cincinnati. Who do you have?
Yeah. Flying Lion podcast jersey swap of the year for me. It's going to be Lucho. Most goal contributions in his career with 33, tied for most assists in the MLS, most key passes in the MLS. He put his heart on the line for FC Cincinnati this season and his body. So he really went through all the ups and downs of the season. He remained the consistent and constant piece in our squad, that held us together, especially during the tough times. Like I said, literally the guy, both of his feet killing him, but he's going to push through it on the pitch and put on a show for the fans.
Yeah, no, enough said. I mean, like, how is he going to trump his MVP year? Well, he's going to come out and get even more goal contributions. Oh, so he's going to win MVP? No, he's not even going to get nominated.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. The dude was incredible. Obviously, the second half of the year, wasn't what we wanted, but there's good reason to that. And don't think that, oh, this guy's hurt, he's just sitting out. Like, he's in every game trying his best out there doing what he can. Maybe like we've said, his 90% or 85%, 70% is better than other people's 100% because of the little magic moments that he can create. So you get kind of this taste in your mouth, obviously, from this game, but you got to remember what this dude's done. And at one point in the year, we're talking about where we're putting his statue in the middle of the season, with all of this video game stuff that he's doing. It's unbelievable. Touching on video game stuff, though, this is where my transition comes. My Flying Lion pod jersey swap of the year was Luca Orishano. I shouted this guy out pretty much every week. I'm sure people were sick of hearing it, but what a player. Most exciting guy that I've seen in a long time in the league. He had 13 goals, 7 assists in all competitions. Striker, dueling 10, left wing back, right wing back. Doesn't matter where you put him. The dude's going to contribute. He's going to beat you on the dribble. He's unbelievably quick. He's dicey, putting guys on skates. I would love to see what did they do in the ESPN, Sam, with Chris Bierman? They go, whoop, whoop. Every time he's on the ball, that's what you're saying. So unbelievable. He led the team in progressive carries. He had 2 golazos on the season. I love this guy, and I hope, next year, obviously, we're going to see him, but that he does even better.
Yeah, I mean, the dude wears number 23 and he's playing like MJ out there, right? Like, I mean, what else can you ask from a kid like that? For him, new league as well, right? New positions, new, teammates, everything. Having to replace a guy in Barreal, really, in the eyes of a lot of FC Cincinnati fans. And by God, did he exceed the expectations and exceed that kind of mold that you wanted to fit him in? Because not only was he like, yeah, sure, like I'll play left wing back and I'll kill it. Don't worry, I'll also play number 9 and I'll kill it as well. I will say, I think we should deem him king of the cutback. I mean, that should be like the nickname of his, the rest of his career. King
The
of
Luca
the cutback.
Cruyff is what
The
I'm going to
Luca
call it.
Cruyff, exactly. Whatever you want to call it. That, I mean, once again, we will say it and we will say it again. You will see it coming from a mile away, but you cannot stop it. You can't stop it. And he's so shifty. He uses his body so well with the body feints. It's what a player. And I mean, hearing all the rumors and everything, we are gonna bring him back. Hopefully for that 3 mil, that'd be great. But we'd love to have him for numerous seasons.
The guy was playing on like chump change for his salary. If you go and look at it, I think he was way underpaid. So hopefully he gets the bag next year and that inspires him to go to that next level. You put him next to Lucho, like, we had Barrial next to Lucho, and that transition was almost like seamless. So, how do they take that to the next level? Assuming that, we get that Lucho connection next year too. But Sam, I want to hear your trivia question before we go to a break here.
Yeah, so trivia question of the week. Ryan, not including the window before our first MLS season in 2019, when was the earliest transfer signing in FC Cincinnati history? The time from the end of their season to the beginning of this new player.
So we're mainly talking MLS, I would imagine, right?
Yes.
Or is it
Yeah,
USL?
MLS.
MLS.
Yeah.
Did we sign somebody within a week after maybe 2020? I'm going to go
You
2020.
think I'm just going to give you the, what do you mean? Like, what are you looking for here?
That's
I gotta
true.
give you the
It was
answer.
rhetorical. It was rhetorical. So I'm going to lock in 2020, and I'm going to go with probably like a week after the season is what I'm going to lock in.
All right, so roughly 7 days. That's what we're getting.
Yes, sir.
All right, I guess we'll see you on the other side.
Hey, FC Cincinnati fans. We are pumped to share our new sponsor, Peak Cocktails.
I'm sipping on the passion fruit margarita, which is so spicy and it makes me feel like I'm on the beach.
Ooh, that sounds great. I'm drinking the Blood Orange Spritz, which has a great subtle ginger flavor coming from its scientifically formulated recipe to promote exercise recovery, enhance relaxation, and support a better night's sleep.
Ryan, that's exactly why I love them. Their cocktails are designed to fit seamlessly into your health-conscious lifestyle, giving you the enjoyment of a delicious adult drink without the downsides of alcohol.
Guys, next time you are looking for that post-workout drink or an afternoon pick-me-up, grab a Peak Cocktail. Visit them at www.peakcocktails.com and use the code FLYINLION at checkout to get 20% off your first order. Zach, enjoy your drink. Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for listening to kind of a rough first part of the episode. It's good to kind of look at the season as a whole and see, all the good things that we accomplished. Obviously, the first part, talking about the playoff game, is never easy to do. So we're going to move past that one. Second half, like I said, going to be more exciting. We have some funny cards of the week for you. A little bit of news that came out over the past 2 days, which is just insane that already, things are happening. Sam, what was your card of the week, though?
Yeah, I had some multiple card of the weeks here that I could have gone with, but I think the one I'm going to go with is the fact that 3 out of the top 6 MLS teams got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. Just not a good look for the MLS in general. Will the views go down? Most likely. But it is funny. The 3 game format, in theory, should help out the higher seeds, yet a majority of them, lost in the first round. So it is interesting to see where that's going to go. If MLS is going to, talk about changing it or, what is going to go on there. But I did have another honorable mention. I don't know if it's like this right now, but while I was prepping for today's episode, I was a little frustrated because, I'm a stats guy trying to look for my stats. And Ryan, I'm not kidding you. I go on MLSsoccer.com to look up some stats, and FC Cincinnati is nowhere to be found on the like stats page
Really?
for MLS. Like, not at all. And so even if you filter by competition or whatever for this year or playoffs or any like nothing,
Hmm.
FC Cincinnati is not on there. So I hope by the time I am currently talking about it, it's already fixed, or if you are listening to it now, it is fixed. But I just thought that was a little ridiculous.
Yeah, that is kind of dumb. I mean, I love to go and look at like, hey, how many goals did he score? And if you can't go back and look at that, that's frustrating.
Yeah, so to preface, like it's just like when you look for stats as like a club, right? So like club stats,
Oh,
FC
I
as a
see.
team like aren't
Club
there.
stats. Got
Yeah,
it. Got it. Yeah, no, I would want to see, hey, what was possession overall for the year or, you know,
something.
something like that. Let's get anything. But
Yeah,
MLS is gonna MLS, Sam. You shouldn't be surprised.
I know. Not surprised at this point.
My card of the week was Inter Miami in general. Carter kind of gave us the fill in, everyone hates Miami. It's pretty well known. There's a couple things that I want to shout in this, multiple parts to it, just like Sam had. Number one, in their last game against Atlanta, after Messi scores a header, they shoved Brad Guzan, who's like 40 years old, into the goal. And then Suarez comes over and taunts him for getting stuck in the net. But there's no cards that are given out, which for context, Suarez was already on a yellow. So that would have been a red card for him. Any other team, this is a card, probably a red card. The ref comes over and is like, hey, what's going on? Oh, it's you guys? All right, well, just get back to half. I mean, that's ridiculous, number one. Number two, there was a premature inclusion to the Club World Cup for them. That's got to be changed. I mean, come on. Like, they lost in the first round, but you included this team because they were the best in the regular season. Just dumb. I don't understand it. We've talked about it. I don't need to dwell on it. The last one is Jordi Alba after the game saying, oh, this best of three series is terrible. We need to get rid of this rule. It's unfair. And then, them going on to talk about the way that they lost, Sam. One of their players was down in the box and Atlanta scores the game winning goal. Earlier on in the season, not Lucho, Messi puts the ball over a guy who's on the ground and then proceeds to score right after it. So are we just going to keep making up rules for them? Seems like it, but hey, I'm just happy they lost. They're out of it. We don't have to hear about it anymore.
Yeah, I saw that how they scored, and I mean, I thought somebody put it perfectly when I was watching one of the videos, and they were saying like it's not against the rules. Like if you want to kick it out and be nice, you can kick it out and be nice. However, they were literally in their attacking play. Like play was still going on their half where they had advantage and they were trying to take advantage of it, right? And they have momentum. So I'm sorry for, not being nice, right? So you can complain about, the best of three, you can play, complain about whatever else that you want. The reality is you have three of the best players in the MLS on your team that probably, top 10, right? Top 10 best players on your team, and you can't even make it out of the first round, right? Obviously, we don't have much to say because we didn't as well, but it's just funnier because you have the so-called best player in the world, best player of all time, and just, you can't get it done. So even if they wanted to, MLS was probably hoping for you to get to the MLS Cup because then they could go, oh well, they got the Club World Cup because they won the MLS Cup too, right? I mean, come on, right? I think we're all in agreement. Like you said, Miami's out. I think everybody is happier because of it.
Sam, it's approaching silly season, so this is all making sense. The transfer window is what we claim as the silly season. But yeah, it's hilarious. Just the ramifications of looking at Atlanta was 34 points behind Miami in the standings. And what did Atlanta do all year long? They played Miami tough, but nobody else. So I just think it's hilarious. And nightmare fuel, for all those Messi supporters out there. But hey, they created this Messi cam for the playoffs that they aren't not even going to be able to use now, which is just hilarious.
Yeah, not a lot of content being made on that Messi camp.
Wonder how much we'll hear about the rest of the playoffs, at least on the Eastern side of the conference too, or Eastern Conference, I should say.
Yeah, like I said, the viewership, I mean, unfortunately, it's going to be down just because you have, top three teams in the East out. So, I mean, right there, there goes, a bulk of the fans in the eastern part of the United States.
Yeah, we do have some soccer coming up though to watch. Miles Robinson, U.S. men's national team call up. He's already training with the team as of today. Dude, hopefully is ready to go, maybe to earn even some playing time again, like he did against Mexico. For the Nations League, though, quarterfinals against Jamaica is November 14th and the 18th. So that's coming up here in a few days. Love to see Miles contribute if he can. Obviously, now we don't have to worry about him getting hurt. Teenage Hadebe the same way. Zimbabwe for the AFCON qualifiers. They play Kenya on Friday, the 15th, and Cameroon on the 19th. So again, Sam, it's just impressive having these guys a part of their national teams. If we're looking at hey, we moved on and we're playing Red Bulls, we'd be obviously really upset about the timing. But yeah, I can't argue these guys are getting caught up for their national teams. There's probably other guys that are, well deserving as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we've talked about, playing for your country is a huge, huge honor, regardless of when it is, what competition is, etc. So happy for these guys to be able to continue to play, rather than, your season just being done and you go home and whatever. I believe I don't know if these guys have families. I'm assuming not, right?
Miles has a daughter, I believe.
He's got a daughter. Well, I don't know about, Hadebe, but
he's a teenager.
Maybe, he's excuse Ryan. He's a dad. He's a dad. He's got to throw in the dad jokes at least, every other episode, if not every episode. Gosh. That was good. That was good. I'll give that to you. That was good. But I'm happy that these guys can continue to play, and it's not just an abrupt stop to their game. Because I mean, on that too, on recovery, an abrupt stop to playing every day, training every day, and just an abrupt stop is pretty. I mean, you could speak to it too. Being in the PT field or PA field, you got to have movement afterwards, so that way you kind of just decrease it and lessen it a little bit.
Yeah, they put these guys through off-season programs, and taper, down some of your cardio and taper it back up, so you're not getting injuries. So that's a good point. That's one thing that Miles, I think, had put a lot of tread on his tires this year. He had to step up in a big way. Teenage, filling in at the end of the year, we talked about his fitness levels, but
Well,
how
him
much
him
does he
ramping
ramping back
back up,
up?
right? Like
Yeah,
not being able to
right,
play, and then he's starting in the MLS playoffs. Like,
right.
yeah,
Yeah, no, so credit to the staff for keeping most of these guys back on track. I mean, by the end of the year, we were mostly healthy too.
yep.
But more soccer to watch, that's always a good thing. More soccer in 2025, Sam. Let's talk a little bit about the most pressing thing in Cincinnati. I'm going to say it right now. Is Lucho staying or going? These post-game comments come out of seemingly left field. Everyone who's listening to this understands, potentially what is going on. Whether it's, him dealing with this tough season, his family matters, which, again, we're not entitled to get into. I can't even begin to understand, but for what he's given to the team, like absolutely, this guy deserves the time to go and to make a fair decision. The timing of it, you can speculate. You can say maybe that's not the right time to come out and to say, you know, this is what I potentially might do. Like we're already heartbroken about the season. He's an emotional guy, and that's what it comes down to. And his frustrations have mounted and led to him, to where he's saying, this is how I feel, and I want to be transparent and tell you. And in a lot of ways, I want to hear that. I want my captain to come out and tell me how he's feeling. But at the same time, it's like, it's scaring me, man, and what he's done, like we said, to turn this around under the leadership that we've had and to bring in the guys that we have to support him, to basically set the team up around him. Um, we'll see what happens. How does this impact decisions moving forward? There's a lot of ramifications around this. But again, respect his time, give him a minute to just breathe. He's been through a lot this year. It's been a ton of things from top to bottom. So I hope we can resolve this. Like I've talked to a few other people, sooner than later, if possible, too. It's hard to just say, give him his time, but sooner it would be better. But at the same time, like what sets the team up best, And if that's him going and that's his decision, then how do we prepare for 2025 in that setting?
Yeah, I know. Obviously, it's the thing that no FCC fan wants to think about at all, a life without Lucho. But unfortunately, like it's on the table. And obviously, a lot of his post game comments are going to be fueled, like you said, by emotion, frustration, just based off the loss, right? Maybe not the best time to just let it all out, but once again, you said he's an emotional guy. He's an emotional player. He plays with his heart on his sleeve, and that's what we love about him and appreciate about him. Because, like I said, he gives everything to this squad, and so the comments, obviously, I think if you want to kind of run just through a summary of like what
Sure.
all has been said, to catch people up, but
Yeah.
obviously, like you said, the respecting, of his family matters, everything else that's been going off the field. He's been dealing with a lot this season, injury, family stuff, and people leaving the squad. So,
Yeah.
Ryan, if you just want to kind of give a summary on that.
Sure. Yeah. And like how it comes to it is like he's literally in his jersey, with like sweat dripping down. He's fresh off the field. He's not, changed in the locker room. He hasn't had time to think about it. We just lost in this PKs. We lost again at home. This sucks. This is terrible. I want to win. And I'm frustrated. I've, through the middle of the season dealt with injuries, my family situations. Like I've even talked to my agent, he said at one point about the potential of leaving, the club and kind of looked, what would that look like? But then to say a lot of things the club did hurt me, they hurt a lot. Having an incredible year, winning Supporter Shield last year, and then to leave a lot of players aside. I mean, that had to have weighed a ton on him, how close him and Arias were, how close him and Moreno, Barrial, that would be difficult for a guy who's, not in his home country. He's made it his home country, but we surrounded him with pieces that make him comfortable as a player, as a human, on and off the field. Having your guys around you when times get tough cannot be stated enough. Like obviously Orishano comes in, he's Argentinian. Assad is his dude as well. Like, but when you deal with personal things, like you go to your people, you go to your rocks and you say, support me. And if there's a narrative out there that the club has turned their back against him and all of this stuff, like I'm pretty sure it's been an open dialogue about, hey, this is what's going on. You guys know I'm frustrated. There's a tough situation going on here. Like, there's no way in my mind I think that Chris Albright is going behind his back. That's my personal take. There's a lot of stuff out there like, you don't do that to your star player and this and that. And maybe I don't know. Again, I'm speculating, but at the same time, like he's your captain, he's your guy. You build your team around him and you've shown that you've done that. So why would you go and, handcuff him and potentially try to kick him out? That doesn't make sense.
Well,
So,
even Ryan on the flip side, right? You're talking about on the other side of that of Lucho kind of giving up on his team, right? That's the narrative that other people want to paint. It's like,
oh,
no, it's not.
yeah,
It's not either
no,
side, right?
no,
Nobody's going behind somebody else's
no,
back. Nobody's giving up. It's literally just honesty, right? And
yeah,
like I was telling you after the game, I said what a lot of people don't understand, right? And they have a hard time grasping when it comes to professional sports and these athletes, they're people. They're people. They're
they're human.
humans like you and I, right? They have
Yep.
trouble on and off the field. They have trouble at work. And, when they're not at work, like they have lives, right? They have
Try to do your
relationships
job
with
with
other
like
people.
mono,
Like,
or
exactly.
something equivalent where like you
Exactly.
need for your career, you run and your feet are killing you every time you go and you run. Like there's no way like
Or
that's good
or
on your
or or
mental
you're at
health.
work,
And
or you're at work and you have like your two best friends at work and they get fired,
right.
right? Or they get like
Yeah.
transferred to like another state within the
Yeah.
company. Like, come on. We're trying to put these
No,
into
I
like
get it.
real life
I
scenarios
agree
that could
with you.
happen to any of
Well,
us.
and so what we were talking about, pre-episode is, how do we make him happy? And I mean, that's always been the goal is you surround your best players with guys that are going to work out. And we're kind of at a fork in the roads of, is it the best thing for the club and is it the best thing for Lucho? And if that aligns and it is back, we love the guy. He's our captain. He's our MVP. We're always here to support him. If it's not, we wish him the best and we hate it. But, how do we find that middle ground? How do we find players that make him happy? It's not all about one player, but, it weighs a lot for sure. And if you say, like you mentioned this earlier, and it really stuck with me, if Joe Burrow, goes to the front office and says, keep T, keep Jamar, you bet your bottom dollar they're going to keep T, they're going to keep Jamar as much as they can try, and to work within the boundaries of contracts and this and that. Like we've shown the willingness to bring these guys in. We were a left at the altar situation from getting a top striker and maybe, advancing to the MLS Cup. Like, don't tell me they didn't try. For a lot of people, it's like, well, trying isn't enough. It's like, okay, but again, we're human, and he brought in Nico Giacchini, which, we thought in the time was going to work. And sometimes it doesn't work, so I'm going to give him some flexibility here on this. And it's frustration. It's the timing of things. But like I mentioned, how does this impact decisions moving on? Luca Orishano, in my opinion, it probably doesn't matter. You're going to trigger his option or you're not. The player doesn't unfortunately get a ton to say about that. He has input and he wants to be happy here, so that's huge. But Luca's proven that he can become a star, in the next few years as well on his own, with or without Lucho, in my opinion. Yamil Assad, I mean, a little bit more of a higher likelihood that, hey, this is my guy. This is, wherever Lucho goes, I want to follow. I want to be around him. And I feel like Assad has really gained a lot of chemistry, within the locker room with the other guys too. How does it sway a striker decision? Does this guy come in saying, well, I'm coming in with the anticipation of playing with a former MVP and a guy that's going to set me up and create these chances? Like, that's a huge talking point. And then, does that open the talks about bringing back people as well, to mend things? Junior Moreno is a free agent right now. If you can get him to come back on a reduced salary, that was the big miss, thing before in the off season. But reduced salary, maybe reduced minutes because you have Buko, but depth in the midfield. That would be huge. Arias as well. I mean, that's a high price tag in my opinion. I would love it. In Vasquez, again, the dude's making, lifetime money in Mexico. He's not doing as well, but good shouts. I mean, all guys that, I would say try to mend this. If there's anything you can do, obviously they're trying to do that.
Yeah, I mean, like you had said, the impact of, all of those things right there. Ultimately, it comes down to what does Lucho want, right? And exactly what he said is, we're gonna talk, me, Pat, Chris, ownership, we're gonna talk, see what's best for the team. And if what's best for the team is me to stay, then I'm gonna stay, right? But if it's just not, the best for the team, then we'll move on. We'll shake hands, and I will have enjoyed my time with FC Cincinnati. And you know, obviously, I don't think anybody thinks that's going to happen, but at the same time, we didn't think this comment post game was going to happen, right? We were all kind of blindsided by it. So
Yeah.
I think as an FC Cincinnati fan, unfortunately, you just got to be open to the possibility. But Ryan, like we had said at the beginning of the pod, though, they bring us back in.
They do. They do. One last thing that I wanted to mention is like he says, I'm doing this. I want the fans to remember like this, moment as me on the field or, in this moment, this could be my last game. Like, I want them to know that I tried my best. I did everything I could. And that's all you can ask for, and the blue collar mentality that this town has. And, at some points, maybe he's more emotional than what we like, but like he's always putting his heart out there. And again, that's all you can ask. And it's in his own way. Maybe it's not always fitting the mold of what people want. But he does it in the way that he does, and he does it pretty damn well. So, props to him for, whatever happens. I'm going to get emotional about it. Because I've really grown to love the guy as a person, as a player, and what he's done for the community too has been massive. And, I saw him going to Manuel Ledesma's academy and, playing with some of the kids. He's going out to these youth games and support. Like, how amazing would that be as a kid that's growing into soccer and you see the MVP of the league in your backyard? Like, unbelievable. So for all those reasons, like, we're here, we support you. Lucho, we know you're listening. I'm just kidding. But yeah, absolutely. We get sucked back in though. And the day after the season ends, a Tommy bomb is dropped. Tom Bogert reports that Kevin Denkey, I'm gonna say it, Denkey, I think is how you pronounce it, 23-year-old center striker, potentially rumored to come to FC Cincinnati from Cercle Brugge in the Belgian league, first division. 2024-25 season, 7 goals, 1 assist, 13 appearances. But the year before, your Golden Boot winner, the dude had 28 goals, 2 assists, and 39 appearances. I mean, they're trying to build this team to support Lucho with that, right? You're trying to show him, like, look at this guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I know as soon as we kind of saw it, we were like, oh, here we go. Deep dive, right? We gotta dive into who this guy is, what he's about, and my God, what a specimen this man is, right? Like you had said, 23-year old. I think at the end of the month he's gonna be 24, but he is everything in a bag of chips, right? Like this guy is exactly what you need in a number 9. He's fast, he's physical, he puts the ball into the back of the net. Current, value was looking at like 14 to 16 mil. Like you had kind of mentioned here, Ryan, he's getting looks from the likes of AS Monaco. There was Lille, currently as well, Roma during the summer. So he is like kind of the when we were getting Lucho, right? Or we were getting like some of these other big name guys. They were, in the talks, like when we were with Brenner, right? Ajax was in there, like a couple of the other big squads. Like, so are we going to be able to pull this guy from, his current club? Obviously, we did during the middle of his season, right? He was at the game this weekend. So, I mean,
What's not
He
to
looks
like
good.
about
He looks good.
postseason game with towel waving and a light show and I'm kidding obviously. But yeah, I mean in the middle of his club season, the dude comes over, gets permission from his current club to watch the game, understand, what he's signing up for with the likes of the top teams in the French league, in Italy, all these other clubs that are looking at him like it seems like from all things, the team that he's with, might be in a relegation battle. They might want to offload a big contract. But this guy is like in, probably not even hit his stride as his prime of his career. Like Sam said, he's a specimen. This dude is unbelievably strong, even though he's only 5'11, but can hold defenders up, can head from everything that we've, read about, seen. All of this is again speculation. I love it. And it's really just brought the whole city back of like, we're gonna win it. We're so back, and 2025 is our year. I mean, we said the same thing about Aaron Bupenza. Let's be honest, he won the Golden Boot in Turkey, but this feels different. I mean, if it's 15 million plus, I mean, that's close to an MLS record. That's a lot of investment after losing money in Bupenza, not making as
And
much on
after
Brenner.
after talking with Carter though, like hearing the process Chris goes through, Ryan, they probably have been watching this guy for 3 to 4 years.
100%. 100% they said, we see this guy as a potential. And, maybe in the summer it wasn't the time because, hey, all of these other top teams were actually, we're competing with the best teams around the world
Yeah,
for
putting the
these
price tag up
players.
possibly.
So middle of the season before the transfer window even opens in the winter, hop on that, really sell this guy on the project. And is that Lucho? Is that, hey, Orishano? Like we have this team to build around. Our defense is solid. You can come in, you can make some good money, you can stay with your national team, you can adjust to life in America. Like again, like we've been able to consistently do this. So I'm excited about the prospect of it. For all of those who want to know, Sam's going to give you the fill in on the important stats
I
here.
was about to say the most important stat that we have to throw in every time we see a rumor, right? What is the EAFC FIFA rating, right? This guy is a 76 overall currently in EAFC with a potential of 82, which is pretty darn good when you look at the rest of the MLS ranks. Um, I feel pretty confident about, a guy that we are potentially bringing in. But Ryan, like you had said, he's from Togo. He's got 8 goals, 34 caps. Be the third player ever from Togo to play in the MLS. That's pretty cool as well.
I mean, I think you have to look at like what are you selling this guy on? If he's 23, almost in like the peak of his career, he just won the Golden Boot last year. Come play in the MLS over, Ligue 1 or Serie A in Italy, the Bundesliga. We're saying we could be the best team in this league. You could get paid. You could continue your trajectory. And then even if you want to make a move, like you still have the time.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is insane that we're even in the ball game with, you know, any of these guys like we had been rumored, Josh Sargent, Bertarame, look at all the comments on Tom Bogert's post from, hey, where's Portland's move? Where's Philly's move? Like, what does the team do the day after we're out? By the way, we want to keep you guys into this. We're looking at this dude, and he might be even done by the end of the week. Signed for the team. From what I'm hearing today, he would probably stay with his club until the end of December.
January,
And then you would
summer.
get 2 months, with him. But I'm excited about the prospect of this guy. We're in conversation with another podcast overseas about some more information on him, so stay tuned for that. Excited to hear what they have to say, but again, on paper, transfer that looks like kind of out of this world.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be interesting. Now, Ryan, what about these other players on the roster that we haven't talked about? Are they staying or are they going?
Yeah, so I mean, again, pertinent to what is going to be happening here, in the next week or two. We'll obviously do a deep dive on, hey, what does 2025 look like lineup wise? who's gonna start, who's gonna be a sub, what young guys are gonna contribute. But
Who are we bringing in?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. All of that stuff, right? Obviously, we'll get there, but today and the relevancy is, how do these contracts go? Miles Robinson has a club option for 2025. He's 27 years old. A lot of people are writing him off as not even coming back to the team, honestly. But I think even Matt Doyle today had put like it'd be a bonus for us to bring this guy back with, the guys that we have in Miazga, assuming he's healthy and ready to go 100%. Hagelin, again, assuming that part of it as well. But Cheeto, Hadebe, you have options there. So did Robinson like elevate his status to go overseas? I mean, we could have that debate. I think you obviously try to hold on to him if you can, because he's a solid player. He's serviceable and he's still in his prime. It's just logistics of it. But if you look at the making of what the back line could be, that's what I want to deep dive is it would be incredible to look at like possibly one of the best defenses you'll ever see in the MLS.
And kind of a protege in Ian Murphy, right? He's kind
Right.
of been forgotten about
Sure. Yeah, that's a good
this
point.
second half of the season with Hadebe coming in and having more MLS experience in that back line. Cheeto coming in, we kind of just left him by the wayside after giving him an extension. So I think once again having him be on the roster, be able to learn from Yazga, Cheeto, Hadebe, like especially Hadebe, right? Being a left-footed center back,
True.
right? He's able to kind of correlate the two a lot better.
Yeah, no, great point. And I just hope it didn't ruffle too many feathers with Murphy of you just extended me and then you just dropped me.
I mean, to
But
some degree, it probably will.
I don't know. I mean, like maybe his goal is to be like the backup quarterback in the NFL. You're sitting pretty. You're on a really good team. You're still learning. You're still young. Obviously, you want to be playing. I'm kidding, but we'll see what happens there. Obi is an interesting one. He's got a club option for 25. He's a DP right now. From what I'm hearing, there's an opportunity with salary and the way we pay him that could drop him from a DP spot. We'd have to renew him at a different price tag. So that's a very interesting spot, and it probably depends on what options are there in the midfield, what direction you want to go with formation, what Lucho does. A lot of that has a lot to say on that. Obi's an incredible talent and has been so serviceable. So I'm very interested to see what happens with him. I think, you try to keep that going probably because look at the spine of your team, and if you lose one part of your spine, do you want to lose another part of it? I don't know. So Assad, like we mentioned before, club option for 25. Again, does the Lucho thing kind of weigh into that? I don't know. Hagelin, free agent as of December 31st of this year. I think all the people out there know that Nick's probably going to be staying. It's a question of price tag. What, is he willing to accept? Is he going to be, I mean, we've talked to people around the team, like at some point he's going to be a coach. He's going to be a club ambassador. It's just the timing of that. And I don't want to speculate too much, but he ultimately is going to do what's best for the club. Is the way I see Nick and how he just respects being at home. And he's one of those guys. So I was Powell, another one who's free agent as of December 31st, solid defensive backup at center back, right wing back, bring some flair, into his dribbling and his
I mean,
attack.
for the sake of the podcast, we hope he stays as well, right? I
Absolutely.
mean, our
Yeah. And
best connection.
well, it has been shown that, I mean, he's won an MLS Cup, he's got experience, even if it is, again, reduced minutes. We always say that with him every year, and then he adds up to play way more minutes than what we expected. So, again, another one that I'd probably expect to lean on the side of an option and seeing if he's got another year. Isaiah Foster's an interesting one coming off an injury, free agent as of December 31st of this year. He's only
He's only
21.
21. Yeah.
So what do you do with that? I mean, you don't really have a backup left back in a lot of ways. So do you go younger? I think the FCC 2 team has a lot of good options that now might be the time to kind of turn the page on some of this. London Negato, again, free agent as of December 31st, a young center back, but we're saturated, in that spot. So is he willing to stay in the FCC 2? Those are what those decisions are coming down to. And in the next week or two, these guys are going to sit down with the team and to figure it out. What's tough for me to see is that, tomorrow, a lot of these guys have to go and talk to the media. And the timing has just got to be so rough. You just get off of this, you get a little bit of a break, and then you got to go back, talk to them. Hey, how are you feeling? This and that. You really haven't had a ton of time to digest it. I just kind of wish we would have maybe a little bit more time. Obviously, curious to see what some of them have to say. More, one player in particular. But yeah, I personally think they had a little bit of a rush to that.
Yeah, I know. They'll be live streaming it on YouTube, so if anybody wants to watch it, they'll be doing that. But yeah, I know, like you had said, this turnaround for some of these players to be able to comment on their future it's going to be tough. But welcome to the professional game,
It's true.
right?
Good point.
Those are the kind of things that you got to do and you got to go through, especially in the United States. I know we had talked to Carter and him saying that Cheeto really had no idea why people were wanting him to, hey, interview me or like anything like that. Here's why. Here's why.
Yeah.
All the United States outlets, they're going to be all over you,
The
especially the
sickos
local
that
ones too.
listen to this podcast is
Yeah,
the reason
you
why.
sickos. Jeez, they love soccer as much as we do.
The Uber
Um,
fans.
but Ryan, some of these guys have been loaned in and loaned out. I know, like you had said, we're going to touch on kind of the depth chart, if you will, in later podcasts, but give the summary of what's going on with some of these guys.
Yeah, the most that I've again ever seen in the MLS over a 2 years, span, but especially this year. Kimi Ordonez is in Sweden, Alvaro Barrial is in Brazil, Marco Angulo. I hope the guy's okay. I haven't heard much
Alive, yeah.
recently. I think he's out of the ICU, I'm pretty sure. But that what a tough spot to, be in for a club that owns the rights to this player, but you're not sure how he is doing as a human being. Do you cut loose of his contract? I mean that's tough. So that's a very interesting one. Maybe there's something in his contract or a clause that kind of freezes
Well,
his position.
even if there's not, I know, a situation like that, we've seen it with Evan Laurel, right? When Evan
Yeah.
Laurel got injured, right? We signed him again so that way he could, stay on the team and continue
Yeah.
to have health insurance, right? To be able to pay for, all of, his injury and rehabilitation and all that. So the club has shown that they are going to stick by their players through and through.
Yeah. No, I think that's the right thing to do. Um, Yeah, no, that's what I want to comment for players out. Now, players in, Kevin Kelsey, Luca Orishano, Nico Giacchini. Two of the three are, different than the one. It'd be interesting. Kelsey's young. He's 19. He's got a lot of maturity. He's got
Five
potential.
mil, 5 mil though.
But the 5 mil option is the interesting one. So, again, we're laying out what we're going to possibly see here in the next few weeks. Trickles in and out. A lot of rumors online about signing. Are we not signing? That roster decision comes out and it really paints a picture like last year of who are we in contract talks with? Who are we declining, straight out? Who are we renewing? So all of those talks are currently ongoing. We could put our 2 cents, and I think everyone can kind of sense Nico Giacchini's not coming back. He doesn't have an option. So that one will just write off the table. Everyone is loving the idea of Alvaro Barrial coming back, and I think that would be great. He's moved on from the club. And
Yeah.
I think even, Chris Albright in the middle of the season saying like, we're probably going to sell Alvaro and we're going to make some money on it to pay for our striker guy, like, so that's how business is. I would love a reunion. I would love, an Alvaro, Luca Orishano duo with Lucho. Like that's a dream. It's not going to happen though.
No, that's a far-fetched dream. Unfortunately, I know, a couple people had put out there like this is the dream, 11 right here. Um,
For the one that I'm
unfortunately,
thinking of in particular, they have Alvaro on the right and Luca,
yeah,
I think, right? Or no, was it Assad? I think maybe on the left.
Assad on the left and then
Yeah.
Luca up top.
Assad's right-footed, my guy. He has no left foot. Put Barrial on the left. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know what was up with that, but like you had said, I think with Barrial coming back, I know obviously we'll just see what happens, but safe to say he'll probably stay in Brazil there. But Yeah, man, this is going to be exciting. We've got rumors already off the bat. We've got
How many players was that? I
2025
mean,
rolling. Like,
13 guys,
yeah,
excluding
13.
Lucho. 14, out of 26 that are up in the air. I mean, that's potentially a huge turnover,
And
from
again, right?
well, and that's the thing that if your one player is, upset about look how good this team was and you kind of dump these guys that build relationships and then you move on. Like it's not all of like you just moved on from them. Let's be honest. Alvaro wanted to move, Vasquez wanted to move. Like Arias probably wanted to stay but didn't get the money he wanted. Like there's reasons to why the club tried. But the question again this year will be like what makes the most sense for the player, the team in those moments, and it's hard to predict some of them, to be honest with you. But I'm ready for all of it, for all of the again sickos that are listening. Like there's a lot that's going to be happening, and it'll draw us back in, even though it's like
Rumor
yeah,
season is in full force.
100%. And so the other thing too is Sam, who do we protect in the expansion draft? San Diego comes into the league, and we only get to protect so many players. Who do we protect? We had, I believe John Nelson got
Johnny
selected,
Nelson, yeah,
for, I believe it was
St. Louis.
St. Louis. You're right, before he went to LA Galaxy. So yeah, we've already had one that's been picked. Do we get another? I don't know. I hope not. It's an interesting situation. Probably the last time you're going to see an expansion draft for a little while.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I know we've been expanding very rapidly in the MLS here as of recent, past 5 years. So probably wait another at least two or three before you see even like kind of talks, I would say, or finalizations of things.
You
But
hit balance conference. I
yeah,
think with San Diego, it's 15 and 15. So it's kind of like, all right, we now are pretty balanced in our people, and we're gonna probably keep it for a little bit. I would assume. So
yeah,
before we go, let's hear the trivia question and answer.
yes, yes, of course. So earlier in the podcast, I'd asked Ryan, not including the window before our first MLS season in 2019, when was the earliest transfer signing in FC Cincinnati history? The time from the end of their season to the signing of this new player. And Ryan, the answer is 12 days between.
Wow.
It was last year, December 2nd, the season ended, and the next signing was December 14th in Kip Keller.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Dang. So yeah, I mean, historically, at least from last year.
So here's a little bit of history. All right. So the rest of the seasons, to do a deep dive on this trivia of the week, I had to look at every single season and see when was the signing. And some of these are actually really interesting. So 2019, first, off season for us with a full team. October 6th, it ended. Our closest signing to that date was Brandon Vasquez
Mm,
from Nashville, and that was 44 days between. And then 2020, November 8th end, closest signing Ronald Matarrita from NYCFC. That was 51 days. So
mm.
that was a while there. And then if you want to count it, I mean, Pat in 2021 was 37 days. And then we had Alec Khan, player signing 39 days, went from November 7th to December 16th. And then 2022, it was actually Marco Angulo
Mm.
from Independiente, 62 days in between, Ryan.
Oh wow.
2022, our season ended October 20th. We didn't sign a guy until December 21st.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this rumor, and if this crosses the line soon, like could be up for the record,
Could be up. Could be up for the record. I think
which,
last year was just kind of an anomaly
oh
because
yeah.
the playoffs went into December, right?
Yeah.
So
Which again they
it was
they do,
uncharacteristic.
for everyone else, the final will be like December 8th or 9th or something crazy. So again, at least happy that we have a little bit more time to kind of have the guys relax and get over. They played 45
February.
games.
February is coming soon.
Yeah. I mean, selfishly, obviously I want it to be back, but at the same time,
For
like
the health, yeah.
let the guys heal up. So, great deep dive, man. I applaud you for that. That was awesome. Um, I hope everyone enjoyed that question as well. And this episode, again, always hard to end the season the way that it did. That's sports, you're not always going to be the winner. Luckily, MLS and soccer, you have multiple competitions, a lot of opportunities. 2025 is right around the corner. We already have silly season starting, rumors, ins, outs. We'll be here for all of it. We might not be here for, every single week, but we're going to bring you all the information that we hear, some interviews. We have some exciting people coming on, so stay tuned for that. And thanks again for listening to us this year. We'll give you our wrapped edition of the season here very soon.